Hey, hi there, guys. How are you out there? Warren here. Today, I want to talk about the way we eat. And no, do not stop the video. It's not that. I want you to keep two doctors in mind. Doctors Esselstyn, forgot his first name. Esselstyn and Campbell, Colin Campbell and Caldwell Esselstyn. And by hearing those two names and seeing the title of the video, you've probably guessed who they are. But if not, they are responsible for the documentary titled Forks Over Knives. And we'll get into why I think that is significant to how we eat and our overall health. And interestingly enough, too, the medical expenses that comes with that, because we all know that health insurance is expensive. And dare I say, we all know that as Americans anyway, we are one of the most unhealthy eating nations. And you're like, okay, now I'm really going to turn off the video. And I say don't, because we just have to face some truisms. We are one of the unhealthiest eating nations on the planet. And we also are one of the ones that knows better. But yeah, we know how expensive health insurance is and can be, and not all of us can afford it, but we can help ourselves. We can help ourselves. But I'm going to talk about some parameters that I know comes with that, because it's easy to say. I'll just give you the basic synopsis of the documentary. I'll actually just read it to you. And it basically found that chronic diseases, including heart disease and type 2 diabetes, can and almost always can be prevented, and in many cases reversed, by adapting a whole food, plant-based diet. And you're like, now I'm definitely changing the channel, because who can do that and who can afford to do that? And we're going to get into that, because I'm with you there. It is best for us. So it's not just me talking. I just gave you the science. And I'll put the link to the documentary and some articles down below too for further reading on the subject. But I know there's some parameters to why we are one of the most unhealthy and why we continue to do that. And with medical costs, I'm just here to say humbly that we can't continue to do it. We can't. The band cannot keep playing the same song all night. But that's the synopsis from the documentary. There is something else I want to share with you guys. If you are currently thinking, doing exercises or a workout plan in hopes that you're going to out-work out a bad diet, it's not going to happen, okay? So stop. And if you were thinking of doing it, thinking you can out-work out a bad diet, don't start. There's, even in the findings, there is no, it's in addition to medical help for those who are chronic. It's not in and of itself on its own. So I would recommend reading the full articles and seeing the documentary. But we're not, okay? There's no rocket science to better health. It's just what we have always known it to be. Watch what we eat, how much we eat, of what we eat, exercise, and balance. That's it. But there are nuances because it is easy for me to say what I just said about plant-based diets being preferred for our health, and I agree with it. I tried, and it does work. You do feel better, okay? I'm not a doctor. I'm not here to sell it. I'm just here to share the facts with you and encourage you to just take stock, because it's not easy, and there's some nuances and parameters that makes it not easy. And number one is culture, okay? Because you try telling someone, I'm originally from Jamaica and I love my spicy foods, and some of the meats that we eat aren't the healthiest of meats, and preparations aren't the healthiest of preparations, but I love my spices and I love my Jamaican foods. So why do I bring up culture? It is not easy to tell someone from a specific culture to now give up the way they know of basically living. Giving up spices, giving up meats, giving up whatever it is. It could and can come across as insulting. And it's easy for others to tell others how to live and make it sound really easy without considering all of the parameters and the nuances like I'm talking about, because culturally it is not easy to just stop eating the way we've always known and the things we've always known. So that's one. And even for those who want to and realize that they have to make some changes, it's not going to happen overnight. It's not going to happen overnight. And that's for a whole lot of reasons. Because again, it's cultural. It's ingrained, imprinted. And then it brings me to the second thing, which is societal pressures, right? You know you're supposed to eat healthier, but you hang out with people who don't. And when you try to, you get, come on, you can start tomorrow, or you're young, you have years, or you can work it off back to working out a bad habit. It's just not going to happen. But there is societal and peer pressure. And not just peer pressure in friend groups, but back to culture in families. You might be looked upon as insulting the culture and the family should you go home for Thanksgiving, let's say, and you don't want to partake of the traditional stuff. You're looking more to a plant-based diet, and everyone looks at you as if you're growing horns out of your head and might even take offense to your not indulging. Again, there are a lot of nuances to these things that some people who push these agendas or these things don't consider. Let's just admit it. Processed foods and good fatty meats grilled over a good open fire just taste better. They do, but And then, along with the societal pressures, there is the societal, I don't know how to put this, looking the other way. And I say that because they encourage it with shows like my 1,000 pound this, my 500 pound that, my whatever, right? Shows that can be misconstrued and taken to mean it is okay when it's not okay. Okay? It's also not okay to denigrate people who are biologically and medically overweight and obese and have any of the diabetes and any other chronic heart problems caused by poor eating. And again, it's cultural, it's over time, and some of what we've been taught because those who taught it didn't know any better in some instances, and then others is just people ignoring and not applying what we do know. But it's not easy. And then there is affordability, the biggest one, I think. One of the biggest ones that is often overlooked too. You would think that a plant-based diet, whole foods, non-processed, plant-based diet foods would be less expensive. You would think. That is not the case. My wife recently went to the store and got 3 baking potatoes and paid $15. $15 for, as Sam would say in the Two Towers, potatoes. Root vegetables that are what most people sustain themselves on, to include us. We love potatoes. $15 for 3 potatoes, baking potatoes. And I won't go down the rabbit hole of why that is where I live, because it's not all about cost. It's about morality too. Not taking advantage of people simply because you can. And I'm talking about in terms of, we ship it in and so the price is higher. It's a ploy, it's a game, it's exploitation. But there is affordability. Plant-based diets are not cheap. They are not. And I mentioned a good steak with a little fat dripping into the fire being grilled sounds a whole lot better than a bowl of boiled legumes. And I don't mean to laugh and make light of it, but I'm a realist. I go through it too. I mean, but no, plant-based is definitely not cheaper. So then the question is, Warren, then if it's not, then I'll take my steak, or I'll take my chicken, or I'll take whatever. And again, I get it. But I want us to just think of the title again of the documentary from which I borrowed part of the title. But the title of the documentary, Forks Over Knives. Most of us cannot afford healthcare of the type I'm talking about, the chronic surgeries that cost a lot of money, because you're talking about the x-rays, the MRIs, the surgery, the rehab. There's a lot of cost. So I really want within the parameters. I'm not discussing the parameters to use them to say, there, see, can't do it. I'm trying to show both sides of the coin. But there is that question. If I go spend, and $15 I think is minimum wage for some people. I think it is. So I mean, do the math. If you have a part-time job, not even a full-time job, and you have a 6-hour day at $15 an hour, you just spent 1 hour of your workday on just the starch for a balanced meal. With my example, $15 gone on 3 potatoes, and we have no kids. That was 3 potatoes for one for another day, or a couple for another day, depending on what we made with them. But that's without children. So it's easy for people to throw out, yeah, just balance, work it in. And I was going to close with that, but affordability is a big piece, because it's when 1 hour of your 6-hour, 4-hour day, if you're part-time, is gone on just the starch, and you haven't bought meat yet. And vegetables that I just told you aren't as inexpensive as some would let on. And then some would say, oh, you can forage. Who has the time to forage to feed a family? So they're just, but again, not telling you that for you to say, right on, Warren, back to my meats and my bad habits. That's not what I'm saying. I am saying I understand it. I understand it. It is not as easy as we like to make things seem. And then the one that I'm going to poke at you really badly with, the last one I think I want to talk about and wrap it up. I didn't want to take too much of your time. Self-control. I'll let that sit for a minute. It's much easier to drive through the fast. It's much easier and more affordable in some respects to just drive through the drive-through and get what appears to be balanced meals for an affordable price, but is overly processed, and then we're back to square one. It's easy. And it is more affordable. But often it's the easy button because of self-control. I get it. Not all of us have the time to go home and cook a wholesome meal. I get that. But you can meal prep. Not all of us can afford to buy things to do a meal prep or balanced meal cooking at home. So again, the drive-through or fast food is an alternative. Most of the time, though, that comes down to self-control, because yes, you can with everything else. I would give that balanced again with exercise and what and how often are you upsizing, supersizing me, as they say, every time you go, or are you trying to eat as healthy at these places as possible? Can you eat there and and get by. Maybe, but we're now at self-control. How many of us deny the upsize me when we're offered it? How many of us can stand there or park there in line and stare at the menu board and see those super icy cold smoothies and all the other things on the board, and when you pull up to the window, say no and just get as best a balanced meal as you can? How many? Not many, to include yours truly. And businesses know this, right? It's the same concept of why all the candy and all the unhealthy snacks are right by the register as you check out. But it has to be. We have to. We must include self-control in all of this, because I started out by talking about healthcare, and it is a big issue, and a lot of us can't afford it. And I have, and we could go down the rabbit hole of affordability in terms of medical treatment and medicines, because there is so much there. Overpricing and marketing directly to consumers. I have a loved one that always says that, and she's passionate about it, that it's one of the things she thinks is wrong with our healthcare system, and that is direct marketing to consumers. The big pharma can do that, and we debate it because I don't think it's still direct. Yes, the consumer sees it and they're tempted by the ads, and people dancing that normally don't dance, and people stretching, and people doing things that most people just normally don't do. You still can't get these drugs without your doctor's prescription, but it puts doctors in a bad place, I think, because as patients, I think unless the doctor truly knows it's going to kill you, I think it's kind of like stores, right? The customer's always right. Sooner or later, your doctor is more than likely going to lean to what it is you want, unless it's going to kill you or put them in a malpractice situation. My point is, you keep pressuring them about these pills that Big Pharma keeps putting in your face on TV. Sooner or later, they're going to write the prescriptions, right? And that's for the good guys that are trying to tell you that eating well, and this is the crux of this episode, eating well can both heal the body, prevent these chronic diseases, heal you when you do slip up and have them, and even help after the knives, right? So these are the good guys. We're trying to tell you that in addition to what they're doing, you should do this. I'm not talking about the nefarious doctors that are in bed with Big Pharma. Again, not touching it because we know it exists. So I'm not going to go either way on it. We know it exists. But I'm talking about the good guys. They get put in a bad spot because of direct marketing to consumers. But anyway, I think she's onto something there. But that comes down to self-control too. You see these ads and you see people doing these things, and sooner or later, because we're humans and it's just being pushed to our brain, sooner or later, and they know this. It's the same reason why the snacks are at the register. So, I know, but we can, and we should where we can, right? Add the bowl of boring legumes. Add the boring green salad. eat some fruit and berries, and stave off the knife. That's all. Because before the knife or knives is where I think we should build the habits, right? I think you would agree. You want to do it before. But I said that we're humans and so we slip. So if you slip, you still can do it. But I think before the knives is where we should build the habits, and then during and after the surgery per se is where we should cash that in. Yeah, that's what I think. But it's not easy. It's not easy. But I saw the documentary and read some of the feedback on Forks Over Knives. And I heard one of my favorite creators do an episode on it too. It was good. Actually inspired me to take my spin on it. But so Dr. Caldwell, and let me make sure that they're going to be in the description, but Colin Campbell and Caldwell Esselstyn, doctors. But yeah, I think it's on Netflix, Forks Over Knives. But I would just recommend that we do try. There's so many, and that's why I started out with my jokes on not turning off the video, because it's not an easy topic, and there's so many people talking about eating healthy, and it's important. By now we know it's important, but it's definitely not easy because of all the parameters and the nuances we talked about. And there are more than I talked about, I'm sure, but I think culture, societal pressures / family pressures, affordability, and self-control are probably the 4 keys to it, right? And I talked about affordability in terms of us being able to afford it, and big pharma and their prices. I stayed away from where and what role should the government really play in that, because that's for another day and another topic, because I think you might be surprised on where I lean where that's concerned. But for this episode and for this topic, I just recommend that, as hard as it is, that we just consider that before the knives, we can build these habits to stave off the knife, if nothing else. All right? And I think that is all I wanted to talk about. So until our next conversation, you be good out there. Take care of yourselves, and we'll talk again soon. I'll see ya.